What happens when magic goes wrong? Okay, this is one of the questions that people ask me all the time. Sometimes I can answer this question for somebody 5, 6 times, and they keep coming back to me with the same question. Well, what happens if it goes wrong? Okay, there's a lot of reasons for this. The primary one is Hollywood. Okay, people have all seen these movies about everything that goes wrong when people dabble with the occult. Paranormal Activity, Hereditary, I effing hate that movie, by the way. All these movies that just make it seem like, you know, the devil's gonna come get you and all of this stuff. The Exorcist, movies like that. I really hate movies like this. The reason is they kind of just like, it's like getting your car keyed. It's just like they give people a bad trip. Magic in the real world is not about all this ridiculousness. Magic is about learning how to focus. I mean, when it's done correctly, okay? So magic is a set of techniques, and it's a term from the Renaissance, and I use the term because it is in respect to the tradition. This is what it's always been called, and also it sounds cool, right? But magic is a set of techniques for learning how to focus really, really deeply, and then putting that focus on different let's say different phenomena in the natural world, or different phenomena within your own mind, so that you can gain more insight into them, or putting that focus on a goal so that you can manifest that goal. You know, what people would generally call manifesting. Now, you can hear New Age people talking about manifesting all day long, or mindfulness, or meditation, and we're basically talking about the same techniques, but they never have this thought in the back of their head, what if it goes wrong? Okay, so, but that said, okay, so first of all, let me dispel all this. All that ridiculous, like, horror movie stuff, when it comes to real magic, it's not a factor, okay? Like, we're talking about Hollywood. What happens when magic actually goes wrong? What happens when something doesn't go well? What does that even mean? Okay, this is a really important question to answer. If magic, as I'm defining now, and as I've defined in previous videos on this channel, is about harnessing the totality of your focus, the totality of your being, the totality of your life in service of a goal, what if you focus on the wrong goal, right? What if you decide you develop all this capacity and then you just focus on, well, I'm just going to get rich, right? Or, oh, I just want to get a partner, or I just want all these external things, right? Oh, I just want a great job. I just want this. I just want that. You focus it on something shallow, or even worse, something that's not truly in line with who you really are, right? That's when magic can, quote unquote, go wrong, at least if you don't learn from the experience. So there is, I'm sure you've heard the classic Rolling Stones song, you can't always get what you want, but sometimes you get what you need. And I think that a lot of the more mystical traditions and some of the prayer-based traditions of the world, such as, for instance, Christianity, get this really right. So in the Bible, Jesus says, not by my will, but by thine, O Lord, may it be done. And I think there's a recognition in a lot of spiritual traditions that people don't actually really know very well what they want. In fact, people often want what is bad for them. I don't think that's a controversial statement. You can look around at the world, you can look around at the people that you know, your friends, your family. People want things that are bad for them all the time, and I don't need to go into too much detail about that. The reason they want things that are bad for them is they want the short-term payoff, right? The short-term hit of dopamine or serotonin or whatever it is. They want to fulfill their needs or ease their suffering for a moment with a quick reward, a quick fix, and not by committing to a path that may take a long time. And when I say path, I mean the path of fulfilling their true needs in life. So magic gets tricky in this regard, and I'll readily admit this because the presupposition of magic, whether it's Western ceremonial magic or even something like witchcraft and Wicca or neo-paganism in general, there's some kind of unspoken assumptions there in these traditions. One is that you have to do it yourself. The other is that you need to develop power to get your goals. It needs to come out of you. I think that's probably pretty straightforward, right? So some of the mainstream spiritual traditions, like, again, Christianity or others, you know, Islam, even Hinduism, things like this, might look at this and from a more mature theological perspective, might say, well, this is an unbearable burden. This is actually terrible. You shouldn't have to do everything yourself. You shouldn't have to figure everything out yourself. You should be able to, pray. You should be able to submit to God. You should be able to ask God to figure it out for you, because after all, you're very limited. You have a very tiny focus on the world, and God, by any other name, infinite intelligence, the universe, the cosmos, whatever you want to call it, knows what is best for us better than we do. And I can't argue with that. We might argue about the theological terms and what any of that actually means, and none of us actually know what any of that means. But one thing that we do know for sure is that when we're in our small s self, the needy part of ourselves, the part that is constantly trying to get things to fulfill its needs, that is constantly trying to be better than other people, to prop itself up, to not feel insignificant. When we're in that self, when we feel that we're not enough, something that the Tibetan Buddhists call the state of being a hungry ghost, we don't make good decisions. And most of all, we don't make long-term decisions that are healthy for us. So then you may ask, well, magic doesn't sound that good. Well, this is what I will say. Magic goes wrong when it is done in service of small s self goals. When it's just to get stuff. Again, Chogyam Trungpa, the Tibetan Rinpoche, called this spiritual materialism. That's one aspect of it. Magic should be undertaken properly as a spiritual path, right? It is a path of taking initiative, a path of initiation, a path of pushing forward with everything that you are, instead of waiting for things to be done for you, but with the understanding that you're still limited. You have to show up and make 110% effort, but you have to understand from the outset that that's still not enough. There's a factor of grace. There's a factor of needing something bigger to step in. In fact, when taken as a pure spiritual path, we might say that magic is a path of doing everything that we can to petition higher intercession, to win the favor of higher power. And that's frankly what it's been throughout all human history, from whatever culture, from whatever symbolic trappings are on it. Magic has been humanity's set of methods, and I say magic broadly now, not just the Western tradition, but all kind of active spiritual traditions throughout world history. Magic is humanity's way of trying to force the hand of chance, trying to tip the scales, trying to get the attention of higher power. So that's when it's done best. And I think in a more modern way of putting that, a 20th, 21st century way of putting that, is that magic is done best when it is to seek out the true will. Crowley talks about this a lot. In fact, the old Hindu yoga books talk about this a lot. Islam talks about this. Christianity talks about this. All the traditions talk about this if you know how to look. But when you undertake magic as a path of seeking out and then fulfilling your true reason for being, then that is the same as seeking God. It's seeking, in certain language, what God wants for you and then fitting yourself to the task, right? But taking initiative. The Hindus talk about cities, the Hindu yogis. Cities in the yogic way of thinking is when you get distracted by, stuff going by the window as you're driving in the car of meditation. Getting distracted by the idea of magic powers, or proving to yourself that it's real, or using magic to get stuff for personal fulfillment and things like this. And there's nothing wrong with fulfilling your needs. There's actually nothing wrong with any of this. What is a problem is if you make it the ultimate goal. This is what was meant in the Old Testament when they said, "Thou shalt not worship graven idols, thou shalt not have gods before me." It means, put all that stuff where it belongs. That's on a lower level of the hierarchy of needs, right? The point is to seek the infinite. The point is to seek God by any other name. And the point is to seek infinite and God as they are reflected within us. Because after all, man is made in the image of God, again, Christianity. And there's a point of reflection where we come to meet and where one reaches out to the other so that they can touch like the fingers in the ceiling of the Sistine Chapel. That's what magic's all about, making that effort, and that's when it's done right. You can learn all about this and related topics at magick.me, my school for magic. All the info is in the link and text below. I'll see you in class.